Well, you had to know that sooner or later, all those bouts of aggression and violence that Rusty showed, well, they were going to bite him in the butt one day. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Penultimate episode of Presumed Innocent is here. It's called The Witness. Um, Nothing like a good dick measuring contest to get the blood going for this final episode. And it's really a tit for tat between Tommy and Rusty, basically to see who is the better and more macho of the two of them. Very beginning, we pick up where we left off, where Raymond has passed out. And so he's being rushed to the emergency room. And the folks waiting in the waiting room are quite an interesting mix of people. It's Lorraine, Rusty, Maya, and then Nico and Tommy. They're all there. It's just interesting that Nico and Tommy are present as well. Seems like a trivial thing. Seems very small, but something that occurs when they're waiting for the results of what's happening with Raymond is that Rusty gets up to just check on Lorraine. Like, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can get for you? And she's like, do you need me to get some water? She's like, yes. So he goes off to get her some water. Now, in this entire time, Nico and Tommy had not said a word to Lorraine, for what we were to believe. But the second that Tommy sees Rusty do that and offer that to Lorraine, he then gets up and says, hey, is there anything that I can do for you? Is there anything that you need for me to do? I know this seems kind of hollow right now, but I'm here for you if you need. And Rusty comes behind him and kind of is like, cool, I got it. Thank you. Step the hell out the way. It's a small thing, but it just shows you how he has always sort of been chasing the tail of Rusty. Like, I want to be the better him. And so it gives you another sort of breadcrumb that says Tommy is doing this for some of the wrong reasons. He's trying to pin this on Rusty. It feels like to clear his name. We get more of that on the end. We think it word that Raymond's fine. He just needs a pacemaker. It wasn't a cardiac arrest. He just had a shock that went to his system, and he's actually going to be in better shape once he gets the pacemaker than he was when he came in. So everybody sort of calms down. They go to their separate corners, and everybody returns home. As they're leaving the hospital, Nico tells Tommy, like, yo, we're in trouble. Like, we might need to go for a mistrial because we are in deep doo-doo. The jury just saw this man leap over the table and go save this man. They now see him as a hero, and we have sort of lost this jury. Like, what are we doing? And he's like, we need to go for a mistrial. And Tommy's like, no, we need to trust the jury. Let this process play out. We need to trust the jury and stay the course. Because if nothing else, they're going to show how impulsive he was, how he made a quick decision. He jumped to help without really thinking of any ramifications. Now, that itself doesn't make much sense with what he does in the rest of the grand scheme of things, but just the thought that Rusty continues to act first before he thinks about anything is that's sort of what he's trying to deliver there. So Tommy's like, no, let's keep pushing forward. So the next day, they all meet with the judge, Nico, Pam, Tommy, and Rusty. And Nico pontificates on some philosophy for a while, some mumbo jumbo that basically he's saying he wants a mistrial. To which Pam says, nah, I don't want a mistrial. I want to continue on, and I will serve as the counsel for Rusty. To which then Rusty steps in and is like, no, I want to represent myself, which seen enough of court shows, law shows, you know that that's not going to be a good idea, especially in a time when you're on trial for murder. Neither here nor there. He's saying, hey, I'm the best person. I have the most experience of all the folks here in the court. I should be the one to represent myself. Takes sort of Maya aback a little bit. And she's like, you are an idiot. And it's very much a ego thing. I'm trying to show up Tommy to show that, hey, I can be him. Like, if anybody's going to defend me, it's going to be me, because I can beat this little pipsqueak. Like, he thinks so little of Tommy. But you can read faces in that room. Tommy's pleased. Like, he feel like, hey, I just got one up on him. And if nothing else, it goes to his point of impulsiveness. Rusty just jumping into things without actually thinking about it a little bit. Because I think if he thought about this a bit and he talked to both Raymond and or Maya outside of this room, they would have been like, this is not the way that you want to go. So he's sort of happy with how this turned out. Nico's more flabbergasted, kind of like, we just offered you an out. Because if it does go to mistrial, there's a pretty good shot that this won't get, go the same way again. Because everything, there's no evidence, there's no weapon. And so if you try this again, especially after Rusty has come off as the hero, if you go into mistrial, the chances of you actually having this go to court or you get found guilty is much less because you know full and well everything that the prosecution has to offer. You're playing with house money at that point. But it feels like Rusty doesn't want to go in. If the mistrial happens and then it gets thrown or whatever, he doesn't want it on his head that, hey, I'm walking around as a person who could have murdered Carolyn, um, but just didn't get found guilty. He doesn't want that. So yeah, he's going gun blazing and he's going to defend himself. To that point, the judge says, "This is a bad look for you. This is going to be bad for you. Um, I don't think this is a good idea at all. But if this is what you want to do, you have every right to do so. I want to let you know though that if you lose, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. Like you are then going to jail. Like um, there's no retrial. Like you've given up all things. This you're putting all your eggs in this basket. Still willing to push forward." It's at that point that Nico and Tommy have to inform Michael's dad that, hey, Michael's going to have to get back on the stand and he's going to be crossed by Rusty. And he's a little furious at the fact that his son's going to have to get up there on the stand and be asked questions by the person who they both believe murdered his wife, ex-wife, and his mother. There is a brief tit for tat in the bathroom with Rusty and Tommy meet each other, see each other. They don't really exchange any words, except for Tommy says, "Well, I'll see you in there." And then the trial begins. My Raymond is watching on a laptop, so he's kind of sort of giving his side commentary with Lorraine there by his side, trying to keep him calm. But there's some things that that Rusty does in this part that would piss off anybody. And he's trying to tell him like, just go easy, don't put so much gas on it, you don't go so heavy. And Rusty is going full throttle into this, trying to pivot and come up with a new idea. The idea that he has always had. Raymond was the one that says, "Hey, let's just play this straight. Let's not offer anybody else. Let's just show that they don't have enough evidence." And I think with them not having enough evidence and him saving Raymond, I don't think there was any need to sort of push as hard as he does on Michael. But man, he lays into Michael. Um, he asks Michael, "Did you ever wonder why your mom wanted nothing to do with you? Did you ever ask your dad why she wanted nothing to do with you? And did that make you angry?" And then he shows a bunch of text that shows that he wished death upon his mom because of the way that she responded to him and how she acted. And he says, "You recorded a video of me that night. And then where did you go after that?" And he says, I went home. It's like, cool. So you went home with your father and your father says you were home. So you right now are each other's alibis. You're the only people that know where you guys were. And it's clear where he's leading this to. But everybody, including Raymond's like, "You're not dumb enough to actually do this." And he does. He lays into him like, "Did you kill your mom? Or did your dad? Like, did one of you kill her?" And it just lays into him pretty heavy to the point where Michael's dad gets up and calls him everything but a child of God and starts storming towards the court, looking very aggressive, violent, and volatile, which I think is what Rusty was trying to do, sort of get a rise out of either Michael or Michael's dad. One of the two of them want to get a rise out to show that they were unstable and they had a violent streak in them, just to present reasonable doubt. That's all he needs to do. I don't know if it's the best way to do so. I think at this point, if he just played this straight, he would have won anyway. But now he's trying to this way to sort of present Michael and or Michael's dad as an option. It's at that point that Nico and Tommy meet, and Nico's just like, "I think we might be fucked. Like, well done, fuck. Like, we are beyond effed up on this," because I think Rusty just did a good job of what it was he was trying to do. Yes, he came off aggressive. Yes, he seemed impulsive and pushing and angry, but Michael shows that he's angry. The father shows that he's angry and volatile, and so reasonable doubt has now been introduced into this. Like, we are in a bad way right now. And so at that point, he's like, "Well, who's our next week's witness?" And it's Rico, Alana, the detective that he was going on going to go see Liam Reynolds with, and who he went to the house with and knocked on the door, and she told him to shut down. Her. She's the one on trial next, or on the witness stand next. And Nico's like, cool, I'm going to take this one. I will be the one to handle this. Tommy, you stand down on this. And there's a little bit of Tommy. He can see that Tommy is getting cocky and wants to go man to man. Now, especially now that Rusty is on the other side, he wants to go man to man with him. And he's like, nope, sit this one down. We need to clean this up a little bit. And so Nico says, I will talk to Rico. So at that point that Rusty meets with Eugenia, who was the other lawyer who she testified in the last episode, but she saw Carolyn and Rusty. She sort of seems like she cares about Rusty and saw that Carolyn was having a sort of a negative effect on him and made him spiral out. She got in the car because I guess she's friends with Detective Alana. And he was just trying to see, like, what is she going to testify? Like, what is she going to say that they feel is so damning against me? And he can't figure it out. She's like, I don't think she's going to say anything negative or bad about you. But it's at that point that she kind of starts questioning him, like, did I read this wrong? Like, was I wrong in how I thought this was? Because I'm starting to see that she was a drug for you and you were an addict. And I can tell that the way you're acting now and the way that you acted then, you were just obsessed and hooked on her. Did she tell you that night that she was pregnant and you didn't want it? Is that what happened? I'm starting to think that that's what happened. And she's starting to show some doubt into Raymond, into Rusty. Mainly because Rusty is just showing so many like characteristics of somebody on edge and off his game and just hooked. And he tells her to get out the car. Like, nah, you need to go get up out my car. So the next day on trial, Nico calmly just asked Alana about the interactions that she had with Rusty, trying to gather evidence about the case. And he says they play the tape of Liam Reynolds when he went to go visit. And basically, he bribed. We heard it all. He bribed him to sort of take the fall for this. And Alana was like, I didn't approve of that. And what he said to you, she's like, I will do anything to prove my innocence. Mind you, Raymond is floored by this. He had no clue. He's just like, I had no idea where the heck is this coming from. Nico continues on. Did he ask for all the evidence to just come to you and not to me and Tommy? And she's like, yes, that is correct. He did not want the evidence to come to you. Then Rusty gets up and crosses. And what he crosses with seems very innocent. He basically is just saying, hey, were all the things that were that you were asked to do normal for a prosecutor or a person who was considered to be on this case to do? Like, hey, I don't want this to go to them because I feel like they're railroading and trying to prove something against me and prove my innocence. And she's like, yes, that is correct. And he feels like he's gotten a win. And Tommy, you can sort of just see is smiling because Rusty has just sort of opened the door, because in this, he used this. One of the problems with if you are representing yourself, he used that as a way to invoke his innocence, basically testifying and giving testimony, even though he's not. The plan was to never put him on the stand. That's what the whole agreement was, is that, hey, if I'm up here, I can't be put on the stand unless you introduce yourself and put any form of innocence, saying your innocence or doing any testimony within your questioning. He does. Thus, doors open for him to be now called as a witness. So they ask for him to be the next person on the stand, and then the judge immediately calls for them to come into their chambers. And she's like, well, okay, you open the door, Rusty. Like, I told you what was going to happen. You open that door. So now I'm giving you two options. You can have a mistrial, or if we continue on, you're going to be put on that stand. And Maya's like, just take the mistrial. Like, go on the mistrial. Because again, like I said earlier, the mistrial actually works out into his favor, because still, as of this moment, he is in the winning seat. And so if a retrial were to occur, knowing what he knows, he can kind of knock out all these things now. And the new fresh jury is going to be like, nah, there's no way, there's no evidence. There's no way that he's the person who did this. Rusty can't get his head out of his own ass or get out of his own way. Immediately he's like, nah, we're going to keep going on. Put me on the stand. And Maya is furious. She gets separate from everybody else when they get into their office and just says, like, I'm done with you. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is you. You are just as egotistical and maniacal as Tommy. You guys are both the yin and the yang of each other. Um, he's like, and I feel like a part of you wanted this. Like, you chose to go up there on stage. And I think you knew what you were doing when you opened the door to be allowed to be a witness. Like, I feel like you think this is the best plan of attack. And she's like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done with you. And she takes off. We see a flashback sequence of Tommy, looks like at a party, maybe a New Year's party or something like that, or a party where they won a case, making a pass at Carolyn, and Carolyn quickly shuts it down. Not so loud that he's embarrassed, but clearly enough for him that he felt embarrassed by it. And using that idea and how he's always trying to get behind Rusty, if he saw Rusty then being with Carolyn, then there would probably have been some jealousy. And so I have a feeling now where this is all sort of coming together. It doesn't feel like this is going the same way as the movie. It feels like the way this is coming together, that Tommy saw Rusty going into Carolyn's place as well, and got so upset that, like, hey, Rusty's good enough for you, but I'm not. And you can see that everything that he's done up to this point has been try to one up Rusty, from just giving a water or helping out Lorraine in the hospital to questioning Carolyn. Hey, why don't you want to be around me? Why don't you want to be around me? Like, those type of things are showing, like, hey, what about me? Don't forget about me. Leads me to believe that Tommy is not the most sane person in this show. We also see that Rusty is probably not at his best game. He is now taking Ritalin, and he says, how else am I going to be focused? But he normally takes Ritalin right before court cases and whatnot, but this one seems like it's a bit different. And so he is taking him, and his wife and his kids are like, this dude is effing nuts. Like, that's the craziest time to be taking Ritalin, when you're about to get on stand. And yeah, it doesn't seem like it works out in his favor. He gets a call the next day from Maya right before he's about to go to the court. And Maya says, look, here's the deal. Don't let him rattle you. They're going to do everything humanly possible to make you upset. Don't take the bait. Be as calm and collected as you possibly can. Don't let him make you an asshole. It will not be good to see you in that light, because the jury at this point has already seen him as a hero. You don't want to flip that switch, because if they do, then they think, hey, this is all we got. This person probably did do it. He at that point apologizes to Maya and says that maybe she was right in all this. And then Raymond shows up, and Raymond's going to be in court. Raymond's like, I'm good to go. I've got the clean bill of health. Let's get in there and see what we can do. And Maya has also said that, hey, I'm on my way. I'll be there for you too. So what went from nobody in his chair with him to now both of them are there. He gets on stand, and Tommy's sort of slow walking the dog, is the way that I'll say it. He's taking his time to sort of get there. He's not punching right away, but he eventually gets to a point where he's like asking him about his affair and why were you hiding evidence, going on and so forth. And then he basically veers him into a way where Rusty keeps saying that, hey, did you kill her? Did you hit her with a fire poker? And he's like, no, I'm not a violent person. The second he said that, I was like, damn it, Rusty, because there is so much evidence that we have seen, and some of it on camera, that shows that you are. And so Tommy takes us down the grand history of that. He shows him when the gentleman came to his door, and he punched the crap out of him. And Rusty sort of defends that a little bit and says, hey, this person came to my home, opened the door with my daughter opening the door, and so I protected the home. That one I was like, oh yeah, he can get away with that. But that one, coupled with him hemming up the medical examiner by the throat, choking him out, those two together, plus with the whole idea of this murder and him sort of being impulsive and everything you've seen him being impulsive, it all comes together this great tableau for Rusty that makes him seem like there is a violent streak there. And that is all that Tommy needed to do. And he keeps saying, "So you just snapped." He's trying to get into the jury's head that, hey, this guy is impulsive and just loses it. It's like, so you just snapped. And so you just snapped. And so you just snapped. And so he has done a master class of how to, while Rusty's being calm, he didn't really lose it, showed how in all other circumstances that we've got visual evidence of you punching this man, got you trying to bribe, we got you hemming up the ME. Everything we have shown, it shows that you work in an operation where you'll do anything to get yourself out of a corner, and you are violent when you do so. We then see a shot of Rusty and Carolyn. This looks like right after they've had sex, saying like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Whenever I'm with them, my family, I just want to be with you. Like, he is fully obsessed with her. In all the court texts and documents that sort of came out, one of the texts says, I want to be with you forever. Or something to that effect. Like, oh, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. Which Barbara was in the court. The kids were in the court, and they all heard it. So that night, Barbara comes home, like, so you wanted to be with her for the rest of your life? And Rusty's like, I don't remember writing that. She then says, well, what now? Because that's a hard thing to sort of get over in a marriage with an affair. He had to present that he loved her and he was obsessed with her and like he wanted to be with her, and like Barbara sort of knew some of those things, and but like to hear and actually see it, that like you told this woman that you wanted to be with, spend the rest of your life with her, that's damning, and it doesn't really show what good their relationship is going to go forward. Um, I'll say this. I'll speak more about Barbara in the next episode, depending on where we land the bird. But um, it seems like in this version of presumed innocent, Barbara's a lot more ignorant to the full goings of the affair. It seems like she was much more unaware than the previous version. Then Tommy he's on cloud nine. He's like, especially if you had like a visual of him singing in the rain, that would have been him. Like he'd have been dancing and kind of like, ha ha, I won. I got the leg up. He's on the train smiling from ear to ear like the Grinch. Goes into his home and you can see that his home has sort of been ransacked. It's been ransacked and broken into. And it looks like that person is now no longer there. And then he looks at his kitchen counter and the murder weapon is there. It's the fire poker. It's there, the sign that says, go fuck yourself. And that is how the episode ends. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious to see who was there to see that Tommy was the one who hid this fire poker and did all of this stuff. It's clearly not Rusty, clearly not Barbara. I'm not putting it past Rusty's son because he was on the site, and clearly they established that for a reason other than just say that this is another option of a person that could have been there to murder her. He may have seen something, and so he may have stuck around to see what was going on and may have seen how everything was sort of done. And I don't know who gets that weapon back to him, but he's the one that makes the most sense to me. It also, everything's pointing to Tommy. It seems like that's where it's at. And it seems like that's where we're going, which would be a very, very different change from the book and the movie, which is fine, which I actually appreciate because now some of the things that I thought where we were going in the beginning, I'm not as angry with or bored with because it sort of picked up the pace. But yeah, no, really good episode. We only got one left, so we're going to finally land the bird and see who actually was responsible for Carolyn's murder. And the other big news that sort of came out is that if you weren't paying attention, Presumed Innocent has been picked up for a season 2. Now, this season feels like this is all one big thing and it's finished. I think from what I can gather is that what we're doing with a season 2 would probably be an anthology series, and we'll just look at a different case, a different murder case, which I think I might be more interested in because for me, some of these threads were very similar, even though I think they've made a left. But yeah, I'm fully invested. Like this is Apple's number one court show that they've ever had. People are fully invested. People are watching, and so I think we'll get to land that bird next week, and then we can kind of discuss. I can finally sort of discuss the differences that I've had with the original versus this. But I think it looks like all signs point to Tommy, which has sort of been the breadcrumbs that they've landed, which I think is still the case. But now it's a matter of who else saw. Somebody else was there to see that Tommy was there, and I think it's Rusty's son who was there. I don't know why he's not saying anything. That's the only problem that I have. But who knows? Who do you have? Or if this looks like it's pointing towards Tommy, who do you think was there to see Tommy? Because he seems to have cleaned up everything else. Who was the one that actually saw Tommy do this, or at least try to dispose of the weapon? Go ahead, leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up with email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other place podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.